Good morning. This is Drew Erickson talking about money, not math. I hope everyone's having a great day so far and getting ready for the holiday season, or I guess we're kind of already in the full swing of things, but overall, having a great day. So today I'm reading another or highlighting another part of the book I'm reading, Missed Fortune, the Dispel the Money Myth Conceptions, Isn't It Time You Became Wealthy by Douglas Andrew. Okay, so I know you can't see my video if you're listening to the podcast instead, but hopefully some of the points that are made are clear enough and still bring you value as well. So today we are talking about the common myth conception that financial security to a large degree is achieved when your home is paid for. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that again. There's a common myth conception, according to Douglas Andrew, and I in large part agree, that financial security to a large degree is achieved when your home is paid for. I'll even add an extension to that, that financial security is achieved when all debts are paid off. Okay? In reality, what Douglas Andrews says is financial security is usually obtained with adequate liquid assets in a safe environment to cover any liabilities and generate positive cash flow to cover living expenses indefinitely. Okay? So I'll repeat that again. In reality, financial security is usually obtained with adequate liquid assets in a safe environment to cover any liabilities and generate positive cash flow to cover living expenses indefinitely. All right, so what I believe we should think about here is, though it is convenient to have our debts paid off, don't get me wrong, those are anchors that would be great not to have. What we have to realize is just because we own everything we have, whether that's having our house paid off, having all of our cars paid off, having everything we own paid off, so we own it outright, it still costs money to live. There's still insurance costs, there's still interest costs, there's still grocery costs, there's still lifestyle costs. Okay, so if we have everything paid off and we're house rich, but we're cash poor, it's very tough to live that way, unless you're just going to sit and hermit inside your house and do nothing all day and hope that someone's going to pay your taxes and your insurance costs, or hope that your Social Security income is going to cover it. All right, so what we have to ask ourselves is, or first remember is, it costs money to live, so it's important to have liquid cash available to cover unexpected life events, as well as pay for our lifestyle costs and taxes and things like that. So the question I want to pose to you before I get more into what he says in the book is it more important to have all of your debts paid off and own everything you have outright, but have no cash to live, or very little? Or is it better to have cash flow to live, but not own everything we have? Right? So maybe owe on our houses, owe on some of our cars, or lease our cars and things like that. So it comes down to traditionally we've been taught to believe that owning everything and having no debts is the most important thing. But what I'm asking is that actually the most important thing, or is it more important to have the cash flow to cover liabilities, like Douglas says, so unexpected life events, and debts and insurance costs and taxes and things like that, like property taxes, right? You can have $1 million house paid off, you're still going to have interest costs, you're still going to have taxes to pay to your county and your state and things like that. Or is it more important to have the cash flow to support your lifestyle today and indefinitely until you pass away, so you don't have to worry about living longer than you, or having your money run out before your breath, or living longer than your money does? All right, so only you can answer that question. I can't tell you how to feel about that, but I'm gonna fast forward to read a couple of examples or in the book that he highlights that I think outlines a good point of kind of a situation you can be in. And note that there are many ways to pull equity from your home in order to create that cash flow if you are house rich but cash poor. One of which is a reverse mortgage. It's tax-free, and I'm not going to go into all the details on how they work, but just be aware that if you find yourself in that situation where you are house rich, whether you're already in retirement or getting close to and planning for retirement, but cash poor, there are ways to reverse that situation so that you can still live in your home, but have more cash to live the lifestyle that you want to live. Okay? So Here's one example that I thought was really good that he covers. So he says, Lillian Hunter's life hadn't been the same since her husband Henry died last year. As a housewife for 42 years, Lillian's career was raising their 3 children while Henry worked at one of the big oil companies in Houston. Unfortunately, he wasn't one of the privileged few executives. During their retirement years, they had come to rely upon Henry's pension checks to help them make ends meet. It was only after he died and the pension checks went away that Lillian realized that they hadn't developed a very effective retirement plan. To make matters worse, Lillian's HMO had shut down in her area last year. She suddenly was faced with high Medicare supplement premiums. She was also struggling with drug prescription costs and even began to skip a few doses to stretch her dollars. Every little penny counted now. So she cherished girlfriend's only weekend tradition looked impossible to attend this year. In fact, Lillian began taking steps towards selling her house as a last-ditch effort to try to live the rest of her retirement years with grace and dignity. She would never ask the children for help because she knew they had financial concerns and responsibilities of their own. One morning, while having coffee, Lillian was reading the newspaper when she glanced at an article about reverse mortgages. Because Lillian had been considering selling the house, the article caught her attention. Lillian read how a widow, much like herself, watched her retirement income dwindle. To solve this income problem, the lady took a lump sum reverse mortgage payment and used it to fund an immediate annuity. That solved her cash flow problem. The woman could continue living in her house. Lillian made a few calls, and by the end of the day, a loan officer gave her $65,000 or 65,000 reasons why she shouldn't cancel her girlfriend's weekend. Without hesitation, she picked up the phone. Darling, count me in for this weekend, I'll be there. End quote, as far as the example goes. Excuse me. So, basically what this highlights is a few things. First, from a financial standpoint or retirement planning standpoint, she, like so many others, never built a financial plan for herself. It was 100% dependent on her husband, who was the breadwinner and the only person who worked, and his retirement plan, his pension in this example. Okay, so that's lesson number 1 when planning for retirement. It's important to make sure that your retirement plan works for both spouses. It's not 100% dependent on one of them being alive, because it's more often than not you won't both pass away the same night, right? So you have to have a plan for how is this going to work for both parties regardless of who passes away first. Number 2 to be aware of is, like we've talked about most of today, is it's important not to be house rich but cash poor. Right? She found out it was great. She lived in her home and she owned her home, but she didn't have the cash flow to live and pay for Medicare costs, lifestyle costs, and just enjoyment. So, and one big point there is we to understand is, yes, some lifestyle costs may go down as we get older, but our Medicare costs go up. So your overall expenses likely aren't going to be. It's possible they aren't going to be any different, or they may even be higher as you get older. Even though a lot of people are told to only expect to have 80% of your income after retirement as you had before retirement, which I often find to be a false opinion, but that comes down to different situations. So what she was able to do is she was able to continue living in her house, which in the end of the day is the most important part about having a home, right? Whether you own it or you rent it or you have a mortgage on the house, the most important thing is that you are able to live somewhere. I think, in my opinion, if you disagree, that's up to you. So she was still able to live in the home. She was able to create more cash flow, and she was able to still have a life by going out with her friends. So it was a win-win-win situation by reversing the situation where she had cash, but she didn't own her home anymore. All right, so there's a few more case studies that I'm not going to talk about in this video to try to keep it short and concise, but I'm going to have a follow-up video to this one. There will be 3 case studies about 3 other people that had similar situations. So if you're interested in learning more, please check out my follow-up video today on being house rich or cash poor. And otherwise, as far as this video goes, and this conversation goes, I hope it brought you value. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Please let me know what you thought by leaving a comment. And if you liked it, please click like, or even better yet, share with a friend. Again, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope this video brought you value. Thanks. Bye.